Well, hello everybody. Russ Barkley here, coming to you from some assisted living facility over here in Richmond. Ha ha. Well, Mr. Flannel is back with another commentary, this one following up on my last video about low-tech solutions to help with issues related to ADHD. And today I want to talk about problems with time management. I know I talked about this about a year ago, but I want to focus more here on some of the solutions that you might find helpful. Let's understand that the reason people with ADHD have a problem with time management is that ADHD inherently interferes with one's sense of time, and especially with the ability to use our sense of time, our internal clock, in order to get things done, to stay on task, to know how much time we have to do something, how much time is left while we're doing it, when we get to the end, and so on. This slide from one of my PowerPoint presentations, in the last video, by the way, kind of illustrates this problem between typical people and their typical sense of time and people with ADHD who have a disrupted sense of time. Now, I know what you're going to say. People with ADHD do care about time. Sorry, that's just the way this particular image comes up when I search for images of this problem. But nonetheless, you get the impression that I'm trying to convey here, that there is a warped sense of time in people with ADHD. And if typical people have trouble with time management, which they do, then people with ADHD are going to have massively more difficulties with time management. It's almost like if you look over here to the right, this Dennis the Menace cartoon from a Facebook website, Honestly ADHD, Dennis is looking at his dad, who is setting their sort of grandfather clock here, and he is saying to him, "What? Isn't it always now?" In other words, why are you setting a clock? Clocks don't matter. Well, yes, they do. And time management matters a lot because studies have shown that among the best predictors of occupational success and home management as well is one's time management. So let's take a look at some of the things that people with ADHD might be able to rely on to compensate for this grossly impaired sense of time and what I have called time blindness. Now, if you take a look here, it's kind of like Salvador Dali's artwork on time and memory. The clock is kind of melted here. Or if you want to take a look at another website that has images of Dali's work, here are some clocks that you can use to illustrate this problem with time. See that clock melting? I use that to convey this very impaired sense of time. So what can we do about it? Well, the first thing to do is you have to find something to compensate for this impaired sense of time. If the internal clock isn't working, as I have argued previously, make time external. And a good way to do that, if you look over here at Amazon, is to get a timer. Now, I know there are timers on your phone and even in your computer. If you want to use the one in your computer or iPad, that's fine. I don't like using the ones on the phone for the reasons I gave in my last lecture. High tech causes problems for ADHD. It's designed to be addictive. It's loaded with social media and other entertaining apps and games. All of this is designed to call out to you. Hey, look at me. Come over here and play. You don't need to be working. Oh, there's a notification here. There's another one in my email. There's another one in my text message. And you're being bombarded with stimuli that are designed to get your attention back to that phone. The timer doesn't stand a chance. You're a lot better off relying on a manual style, digital or analog counter. I kind of like analog better than digital, as you'll see here. Analog means this, representing time as a circle, because the reason I like that is you can see using these timers how much time you have left to finish what you start. Whereas I think the digital timers are just counting down, and they don't give you the full picture of where I am in the passage of time relative to the deadline I have set for myself. So I think these various timers do a lot better for helping people with ADHD than the things on smart technology. Now, if you want to use them, that's great. But again, I think the manual timer, the spring-loaded timer that sits in front of you and does nothing else but time you, as you can see from these other clocks. I'm scrolling down here just to show you the variety of timing mechanisms that you can get over at websites like Amazon. But I think that these keep you under control. They're in the visual field. They're not going to distract you to do something else. They give you that sense of time. They tell you where you are in your time period, and so on. So have a look at those to see if they might help you. Frankly, adults with ADHD tell me that even a cheap spring-loaded kitchen cooking timer from Walmart or elsewhere works just fine and serves their purpose without distracting them. Now, one technique that you can use if you get a timer is called the Pomodoro Technique, named by Francesco Cirillo. This is from his website. And here is a timer that looks like a tomato. So where did Francesco get this idea about time management? Well, he was studying for an exam, and he decided that he needed something to keep him from getting distracted. So he went to the kitchen. He got his kitchen timer, which was a round, red, manually operated spring-loaded timer. Kind of looked like a tomato, which is what Pomodoro means in Italian, I am told. And he set it for a couple of minutes, and he found that by having the timer in front of him and hearing the clock ticking and seeing the time moving on the device, it kept him on task a lot longer. So he came up with this Pomodoro technique. So get yourself a timer. You can even buy this kind of timer on Amazon. Otherwise, just a standard timer that shows you the passage of time. I think that's very important here, that you see where you are in the time interval. So get yourself one of these timers. Then what do? Well, as this website shows about the Pomodoro technique, you are going to do several things. I'm going to scroll down here to talk about the method that you use. And the first thing you do is you choose a task from your do list that needs to get done soon. Then you set the kitchen timer. They recommend 25 minutes as the ideal working time for an adult, but I think that's for a typical adult, so I would recommend that you might want to back that up to about 10 or 15 minutes of work time to get started. After all, Cirillo used a timer of 2 minutes to start with so that he could experience success with the timing technique, and then he eventually increased the time up to a certain interval, and he found that 25 minutes for him was the best. But he doesn't have ADHD that I know of, and having ADHD, I think, makes it harder to work for that kind of extended time. So think about using an interval that is shorter. Maybe start with 5 minutes, then go to 10 minutes, get up to about 15 minutes. I wouldn't jump right in to a 25-minute timer. Okay, so you've chosen the task you're going to work on. You set your timer to the time interval you're going to start with, and then you start working on the task, because your commitment here is that you have decided you are not going to be interrupted or distracted during this time. Nothing else matters but this task and that clock. And that clock is going to tell you when you can stop work and maybe take a break, get distracted by something else for 5 minutes or so, and then reset the clock back to that 15 or 25-minute interval, whatever it is you've chosen, and do another Pomodoro, is what these intervals are called. Then take another break, maybe a little longer than the last one, then do another Pomodoro. Experts recommend that you can stack about 3 or 4 of these Pomodoro work intervals together before you finally need to take a longer break to replenish your effort, motivation, and concentration. But remember, during the time that the interval is timing, you have elected to ignore everything around you. Now, people with ADHD can do that for short periods of time. So remember, we want you to have success. Maybe your Pomodoro time interval, as I've said, is going to start out very short, give you some success, and then start increasing the work interval. So I really like this concept of commitment to a timer for a short period of time to work on a task and ignoring everything else. And as Cirillo found with this technique, the external cooking timer in front of you was the best method to use, not some high-tech solution. Now, that leads to another time management issue of what task do I choose? Okay, I got up this morning, I created a list of tasks I want to do today, but they're not all equally important or urgent. So I've got that list. How can I sort it out as to what I need to pay more attention to? Well, this is called the Eisenhower decision-making matrix. I've been using this for over 40 years when I was in full-time practice at our medical school. And that is where you take all that list of tasks and you sort it into a matrix of 4 different priorities. And they break down like this. Across the top of your sheet of paper is the word urgent and non-urgent. Along the sides is the word important and not important. This creates 4 boxes. Now go through your list of things you wanted to do today and put them into the matrix. Urgent and important are things you're probably going to get done anyway because they're needed to get done now and they're very important for you. So we don't worry so much about people doing that part of the matrix. They usually get that done. The second box over here, the not urgent and important, those actually turn out to be the most important things for your longer term goals and success. They don't necessarily need to get done right now, but they're important to you. They're steps along the way, maybe in your career, maybe in relationships, maybe in managing your home. They're things that matter to you, but they're not urgent. Nobody else cares about them. Those are actually the hardest ones, I think, to focus on. So when you have a moment, take the upper 2 boxes of tasks that you've put into them and now transfer them into your calendar, your week at a glance calendar or your day at a glance calendar, and mark in the time where you're going to do that task or that several tasks that you want to do. Now, the other part of the matrix are things that are urgent but not important. They don't matter to you. The only reason they're urgent is they've got a timestamp on them or a deadline or a delay, or somebody's asked you to do something but it's not important to you, but they want it done in a certain time. These are the things that don't matter. You can either delegate them to others if you have people who work for you. Most of us don't. More importantly, what you can do is what I did in my workday, which was I set aside the last hour of my day for those things. Return phone calls, answer email, and maybe answer text messages. Open my mail, the old school paper and pencil mail, so to speak, that came in for the day. The last hour of the day was cleaning up all of this debris that seemed to be urgent or needed to at least be looked at, but wasn't all that important. The rest of the day, I didn't do any of that stuff. I didn't return emails. I shut down the email box. I don't want notifications. I didn't return text messages. I didn't look at the mail that was stacking up in my mailbox or on my desk. I simply focused on the upper 2 boxes of the matrix. Finally, the lower right-hand box are things that are not urgent and not important. Get rid of them. These are things like junk mail, social media, and other things that you're looking at that don't matter worth a damn, but can consume a heck of a lot of your time. So think about starting your day, making a list for the day, or even making a list for the week, and then begin to categorize them into this matrix. And then, as I've said, take the things in the upper row that are important and block out time during the day and during the week that you're going to focus on them. Then get your timer out, do your Pomodoro technique, and start working on that task. And then you'll start to see productivity improve, your success at work or at home or wherever you need to get these tasks done will improve, and you can begin to stop wasting so much time on those bottom 2 boxes. Okay, I'll put the links to these products and these ideas over in the description for this video. But the important point to remember is People with ADHD have an impaired sense of time. They need external time references. Low-tech timers are better than high-tech cell phone or iPad or other timers. And on top of that, we know that the Pomodoro Technique can be a way of using these timers in order to decide on short intervals of time with frequent breaks. So it's self-determined time intervals with a frequent break, but a commitment during the time interval to not get distracted and stay on that task and keep working on it. And then I've given you the Eisenhower Matrix in order to help you prioritize the tasks that you need to work on. I hope you found this presentation to be helpful to you. I'll have others next week on other topics related to ADHD and low-tech solutions. In the meantime, thanks for joining me here on the channel. Thanks for subscribing, especially everyone. If you know somebody who could use this information, please recommend this channel to them. And as always, be well. Bye now.